Norma ran, picked up her skirts and ran as she had never run in her life. Ran as though the hounds of hell were at her heels. Fuck it, the hounds of hell were at her heels. And as she ran, she heard a crackle of gunfire behind her, the sound of the shots ricocheting through the night-silent streets of London. The gunfire told her that Matahari and her suffragettes had kept their word. They had tried to delay the SS bastards for as long as they could. Suffragettes died hard. "Run, Norma, run!" Matahari had screamed at her as Clement's SS Ordo Templariana's thugs had smashed down the pub's door. And she had run. She wouldn't let the SS catch her. Mad, evil bastards. But she was running blind, snowblind. The snow was so thick she could barely see a dozen strides in front of her, snow that the icy wind was whipping into her eyes. Angrily, Norma shook her head, ordering herself to ignore the cold, ignored the frosted numbness crawling along her fingers and her toes, ignored the protests of her mutinous body, ordered herself to ignore everything but the need to put as much distance between herself and the animals chasing her as was humanly possible. She ran until her heart pounded in her chest, until her legs throbbed with pain, until her lungs felt as though they were on fire. She ran, keeping as best she could to the ruts in the road left by the wheels of a steamer, desperately trying not to leave tracks in the freshly fallen snow, tracks they could follow. The sound of a hunting horn echoed behind her, maybe only a few streets behind her. The SS had shaken off the suffragettes. Now the demon hunt was on in earnest. Run, Norma, run. Yes, now she was sure she could hear them. She could hear the smash of the gang's hobnailed boots snapping through the tight streets and along the narrow alleys that made up the rookeries. She could hear the bellowed shouts of that hideous man, boy rather, Archie Clement, and the screams of his pack of bloodhounders as he flogged them in pursuit. The leather soles of her boots skidded on cobbles, patterned by a slick coating of snow, sending her tumbling into the fetid gutter, sending her sliding on her knees and on her outstretched hands. But even without pausing to inspect the damage to her body, she staggered back to her feet and began to hobble on, sobbing with desperation and terror. Get a grip, Norma. This was no time for weakness. Not now she was cut. Cuts seeped blood. The hounders would just love that. It'd drive them crazy, blood crazy. Now they'd have her spoor for sure. And as though in reply she heard the mournful howl of a hounder as it picked up the scent of her blood. Run! Don't give up. Maybe the snow would cover her tracks, cover her blood trail. Please, please, snow harder. She slowed at the corner of the street, trying to get her bearings, trying to catch her breath. For a gasping instant she looked around at the street signs. So near, so very, very near. She was only 3 blocks away from the Thames, from the Pons Fabricus, from freedom. Just another couple of 100 yards and she'd be out of the rookeries. Just 3 more blocks and she'd be able to see the awful tower. Her breath was shorter now, her body rippling, trembling uncontrollably with cold and exhaustion. There was another eddy of wind, and she felt the sleet cut across her face, felt the cold size through the thin cotton of her blouse. If she didn't get out of the snow soon, she'd be finished, frozen to death. Concentrate. This wasn't a computer game. Not anymore. She wasn't a player. Not anymore. Now she was one of the kept. Now she was a Demi-Mondian.